What's up, you guys? Welcome back. And if you are new, my name is Jess. I'm a recovering addict who served time in prison. Today's video is going to be a compilation video about prison corruption. I reached out to 7 people. There might be more clips coming in, I'm not exactly sure, but I reached out to some other people and asked them if they wanted to share their experience with prison corruption. And I was actually inspired to do this because I met a really good person when I was home visiting my family in New York. His name is Matt Grannon. I will leave our interview on the card up here. Attica Prison in New York broke his neck. And ever since I was talking to him, I just really have been inspired to share more about prison corruption and what actually goes on behind those walls. So please remember that just because someone made a mistake and broke the law and went to prison, that does not mean that they deserve to be physically beaten, emotionally drained, treated like trash. They definitely don't deserve to have their neck broken either and physically assaulted on a daily basis. Over half of all incarcerated people are serving time for a non-violent drug offense. We incarcerate more citizens per capita than any other country in the world. In the world. And it is primarily because of our drug laws. It is my personal belief that drug addicts need treatment. Drug dealers need prison. I'm putting myself in that category. I was a drug dealer and I 100% deserved every single day of every single sentence I was ever given, and then some, if I'm being honest. But I'm still a human. These people that are serving time in prison are still human, and yet they're not treated like that. We take people and we put them in prison. We house them and cage them like animals. We beat them, belittle them, abuse them, and humiliate them. Then they're pushed into society. It is not serving anyone to have broken people returning to society, people with trauma, people with PTSD, people that were beaten. And a lot of these people grew up in that same trauma. We're not correcting it. We're only fueling more abuse, and it is a generational problem. We have so many kids in this country growing up without their parents because their parents are broken. Addiction is not the problem. Addiction is our cure. The problem is much deeper than addiction. So if we start to peel back the layers of that onion and we start to understand what addiction is, then maybe we could help people. And I'm talking about that because addiction and prison go hand in hand. So without further ado, let's get into today's video.
In Florida State Prison, especially in the youth offender prisons, the second you get to your prison, you don't even get off the bus. They come onto the bus, tell everybody to put your face on the ground of the bus. They literally walk down the aisle of the bus and smack everybody on the back of their heads, then start throwing you off the back of the bus one by one. Everybody has to get into a main room, strip search. They go around smacking everybody during the strip search. I mean, the youth offender prisons are so hands-on. If you go through a youth offender prison without being hit, it's pretty much unheard of. Now, when you go to the adult prisons, they're not as hands-on right when you get in there, but anything you do out of bounds, if you disrespect the CO, if you disrespect any of the nurses or anything like that, they're bound to get you. I know there's one big case at Appalachia CI where a black inmate married a white woman. And after the marriage ceremony happened, he was taken into the captain's office and beaten to the point that he was unrecognizable. At laundry at Appalachia CI, those specific COs, if they wanted to target you, they would write a request for you to come down to laundry just because there's no cameras there. So when you go down there for a call out, because it's mandatory you go, if you don't go, you go to confinement. Once they get you in there, they're gonna jump you, they're gonna cuff you up, they're gonna beat you down. It's crazy, it's hell. I hope y'all never have to experience it.
So hands down, corruption goes on in every single system in the United States, whether it be state, whether it's fed, county jails. I mean, it happens, it goes down. But there is a huge difference between state and between federal. Now, I'm gonna speak on just corruption in general, things like taking bribes, bringing in contraband to try to make money, just writing up write-ups wrong so they can get revenge against inmates. There is also violence that goes on, but I'm gonna focus on corruption because there is a huge difference in the way that it goes down between state prisons and federal prisons. And they are this. For one, at least in the South, you gotta realize a lot of the prisons down here are staffed by regular everyday people that may be straight out the trailer park, straight from the hood. And so the caliber of employee that you have is not like it would be in the feds. The feds hire a lot of ex-military, They hire ex-police officers and things like that. And also, there's a lot more to lose in the federal system. They get paid a whole lot better. The benefits are better. You literally work for the federal government. So as in the state, you would see things like violence happening a whole lot based off of the contraband and everything. There's a bigger respect level in the federal prisons, and also the corruption is way more rampant in state prison because of the type of people that you have working at the prisons. In the federal system, you will hardly ever hear about people bringing stuff in. Now, don't get me wrong, it does happen, and I'm sure that it happens on every single federal yard, but it's a lot less widespread, and people keep stuff to themselves a lot more because snitching is so prevalent in the feds, because you got Rule 35s and 5K1s, which is time reductions for cooperating. An inmate can easily accept contraband from an officer, flip on him, and go get time cut off of his sentence. And so that's just basically how it is. In the state, you're gonna see out of 25 officers, 3 or 4 of them might be bringing stuff in. Everybody's gonna be on the take. I've even seen officers get into shootouts or fist fights in the parking lots of the state prisons because they're beefing over who's bringing the contraband in to a certain group of inmates. In the feds, you'll hear rumors about such and such officer is bringing in the contraband. He's doing this and he's doing that, but you can never really get any evidence. And then the stuff that gets brought in is really held tightly because, like I said, they have a lot more to lose. The benefits, the pay, it's a career in the federal system. Also, the fact that they can get snitched on so easily. I've seen it happen. So to recap, state prison, everybody's on the take. It's wild. Contraband is widespread. It drives the prices down. You can't make as much money. In the feds, they keep it close to the chest. They don't want to get snitched on. They don't want to lose their job. The value of the contraband is really high, and everything operates on a different class level.
Okay, well, prison corruption. It's not just a little here and there. It's a good old boy club, just like it is in the streets with the police department, law enforcement, political parties. It's all a club. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. When I was in prison, I fought with the administration left and right because they want to hold you accountable to the rules and the regulations and the policies, but they don't want to hold themselves accountable to the rules, regulations, and the policies that apply to them. So I was the type of guy who would flip the script, and I would drop paper on them and file grievances, whether they liked it or not. So I ended up getting into a little trouble with the administration in several prisons. I went to the hole a couple of times over basic corruption and exposing it, and mistreatment of prisoners in any way, shape, or form, whether it's physical violence against them or whether it's, you know, administrational punishments. And they don't like it when you fight back, just like they don't like it when you fight back in the streets. They want you to cower down and abide by their rules and regulations, even though they're just renting us. You know, we're renting spaces in their house and they own it. But it's a battle that you're never going to win unless we all stick together and fight it from within or even on the outside. They literally get away with murder in some prisons around the country on a regular basis, and that has to stop. When people go to prison, they're in there to serve their time for their crime. They're not in there for inhumane treatment, torture, or abuse. And I'm a good candidate because I was one of the people who would say, hey, they did their time, they get what they got coming to them. What happens, happens. But until I got a little taste of it myself, and I was just a regular guy out on the street who was literally picked up and dropped into the system, I learned real quick that that's not how it goes. So be careful what happens out there, because you don't want to get into the problem that you can't get out of once you're in it. Corruption's deep. It doesn't stop inside, just like it doesn't stop out here. So just be careful out there, people. Live right. You don't have to deal with it.
I have served, my longest bid was 2 years and 5 months. I have done a total of like 3.5, little bits and pieces here and there, but in my experience, officers were not aggressive so much as passive. They would let a lot of things happen, assaults, extortions, pretty much anything that goes on in a prison, they would turn a blind eye to, and after a while, they know what you've done wrong, so they have this power over you that they definitely don't let you forget about. Most of the aggressive behavior I saw came when I spent my time in segregation in the hole. They housed a lot of mentally, like, severe mental health patients there and did not treat them well, like had ACLU complaints against them. They would purposely, like, give them orders that they wouldn't follow because they've been, in some cases, they were there for years. And what would happen is they would paper their wall and the guards would tell them to take it down. When they wouldn't, they would spray pepper spray in their room with the vents still on so it would reach every inmate in the SHU. And we all had pepper spray all over our faces for a while. And they would run in on those people and just beat them and carry them out. Like, it was pretty vicious. It happened a lot. When I was in the hole, there was a riot that broke out in the general population where several staff members were assaulted inmates. It was a pretty big deal, and when those inmates were then brought to the SHU, there was a lot of hostility towards them, like they weren't taken care of like they should. They took them forever to get their property, like it, and not to mention that, like, the hole in itself, like, is an assault on your character. You have to strip search every time you want to leave your cell. Like, it's just an inhumane thing, so it may not be a physical assault. When I was at York County Prison, there was rumors or, like, whispers of what would later become a fight club where inmates could fight one another for food or just any kind of special consideration. It could be underwear, t-shirts, socks, didn't matter. After I left and went upstate, there were actually charges filed against several COs who were convicted. Like, so it was going on, it was happening. Just thankfully did not happen to me. Grieving officers is something I've personally never done because it literally just goes to the CO's captain, which then puts a bigger target on your back, and in my estimation, it is a really bad idea to grieve any officer because nothing will happen except worse things for you. So as far as prison rehabilitation goes, there's a long way to go. I personally was in a therapeutic community towards the end of my sentence and spent 4 months in, like, intensive recovery stuff, and I think it helped me. It helped a lot of people who were willing and able and wanted to change. Like, it's not going to change anyone if they don't want it. Like, it definitely has to be self-motivated, but they provided some tools to help you out. Enough drugs to go around. There were a lot of people who would spend a lot of money trying to get high. I was not one of them, thankfully. I was over my want to do drugs, and doing drugs in prison doesn't really seem like the greatest fun to me. Like, I get that, yes, we're very bored, but I worked out like crazy, so drugs were brought into the prison all your normal ways, like visits, balloons, that kind of thing. One method that I heard about was they would get someone on the road crew and have an arranged drop, like somebody would package something up and stick it under a rock that they would be coming around to sooner or later, and they would grab it and bring it back and just distribute. There was one instance where my first cellie when I got upstate, I think, he had a visit and came back and was like, "Hey Sally, I need the cell for a little bit. I need privacy." And he had grabbed balloons from his partner, spouse, wife of weed, and he either had to get them out the front or the back. I can't remember. It depends on how long you wait. You either have to throw them up immediately or wait for them to pass the other way. So I'm pretty sure he got them up on before they passed too far. But it's a lot to go through for drugs in prison, especially when if you get caught, man, it's a bad time.
Recently told, not only have I been the wife to a man who's incarcerated for just about 20 years, I also have worked with family members, wives, and loved ones incarcerated for many years. So I had a woman reach out to me on my YouTube channel recently who was part of the legal team defending an inmate who we believe allegedly was murdered by the system. She was in the middle of a legal dispute with Lackawanna County prison system, and she was a victim of all kinds of stuff on the inside, all kinds of abuse. You can use your imagination. I can't say it on this video because I don't want to get Jess demonetized. Use your imagination. It's heartbreaking. So she finally, after getting out, one, decided that she was going to open up a PREA case, but two, to deal with all of the abuse, the physical torture that she faced, all of that corruption, she went back to a life of drugs. It ignited her addiction so much worse. During the thick of this lawsuit, she's driving one day and she gets into this horrible accident, a fatal accident, and she dies. When they looked into it, it wound up that her brake line had been cut, so it was obviously foul play. They came in, the cops, whomever, came in with this story that her boyfriend, who was also a crack addict, didn't have a crack pipe to smoke out of the night before. So he went, they say, and cut her brake lines and used that as a crack pipe. Just think about that 1 second. Just let that sink in for 1 second. What? So now he's on trial for this. He's facing time for this. And we all know, allegedly, let's say allegedly, this was corruption. And I'm so happy and so proud of her lawyers. This woman who works with the law firm told me that her lawyers came in and said, no, we'll have somebody stand in with similar charges and we're going to fight this to the end in that woman's honor, because they're not going to win. They're not going to kill people off, which is very common, so they can keep getting away with the corruption. Because here's the thing. They want us to stay quiet. They want to silence us. They are so upset right now. Things inside are getting so heated because of people like Jess, because of these videos, because of people like you who are exposing corruption. They don't want the media involved. All they want to do is create a space where we're going after safety and security. We are keeping you safe at night, so these criminals are off of the streets. That's what they want public perception to be. But at the end of the day, I ask you, after not only my stories, but all of these stories, who are the true criminals? It's so sad. 2 hours after I sent my video footage to Jess, I got an email from Adam. He had no idea I was making that video. He knew I was working with Jess on a video, but he didn't know what the topic was about. And in that email, it was all about a situation that had taken place, and it was so corrupt. He said that he was nauseous still hours after it happened. So he said that he was just about to go into the dining hall. They were just about to eat lunch after a crazy workout class, and they were outside, and this situation happened where there was a kid. He said the kid looked about 16 years old, couldn't weigh any more than 150 pounds max. He had just gotten out of the hole, so he was really weak, really thin, and something happened and they had him cuffed, and then they threw him to the ground. He said 300-pound men jumped on him and they were beating him, and they waited for the captain to come over and they held him down. They jumped on him, held him down, and the captain just repeatedly kept punching him over and over and over again while the 3 grown men were crushing him and holding him down until the captain decided that he had enough. And then the squad of responding officers came over and they all jumped on him. I don't know how this kid was breathing. And he said they literally dragged him like a rag doll across the yard to medical. He said he went inside to eat lunch and was nauseous. He couldn't really eat. He said he felt so responsible. He was kicking himself. He was hating himself for not being able to do anything. He said, but there was nothing good that could come out of him doing anything, just like everybody else that just stood there paralyzed and watched. He said it was the most disturbing feeling, and he felt so much resentment towards the officers that did have the ability to go over and do something and stop this, that just stood there and allowed it to happen. He said he went to the library afterwards to work on some legal stuff, and he said the people that weren't there, that didn't witness it, could see that something was wrong with him. He was in his feelings, and everybody else that did see it and knew what had happened were all quiet and kind of in their feelings as well. Everyone was feeling really guilty, disturbed, really bad about this. And I have to add this part in. Adam is at a medium security level facility, so it's not supposed to be the big, violent, anything could pop off at any moment mentality. Well, as of the past probably 6 or 8 months, it's just gone downhill. They had a captain that came from a high security facility level, and every time he instills a new harsh rule, he says, well, that's how we did it where I came from. But where he came from was a maximum security prison. It's different there. They operate differently. So Adam said he left the law library. He went back to the unit. When they cross over the yard, there's what they call a shakedown shack, meaning there's a metal detector. They have to empty their pockets, and they literally just get shaken down. They have to pass through it to get back to the units. They had extra security in there that were holding pepper ball guns, aiming them as if a riot was about to take place at any moment. He said it was so disturbing, it was so odd and awkward, and nothing was about to take place. They're just trying to instill their force, and they're just trying to flex their power muscles. So he was kind of disturbed by it. He was still nauseous from what happened at lunch. He was still kicking himself. When he got back to the unit, there were more cops in addition to the normal unit cops that were patting everybody down as they were entering the facility. He said he could not bite his tongue. And he said to them, wow, this sure doesn't feel like an FCI anymore. FCI is medium security level. And he said they looked at him kind of shocked, but nobody said anything. And his email, the last line was, what can they say? What could they say? Because they know just as well as he does that things have just gone downhill and downhill and downhill. And I just want to add this. Adam very rarely sends me an email with those types of encounters. He's never sent me one that was so vivid in the account of what happened. That was his crying out for help. Yes, that email was sent to me, but it wasn't written for me. It was written for the eyes of the people that are monitoring it to see what's going on in there. If they're monitoring it at their central hub in Texas, it's kind of flagging things. Also, he's sending it to me to pass along to people like Jess, because we need to raise our voices and expose this horrific corruption. So I just want to leave you guys with that. Thank you so much for allowing me to share some of my stories with you. I promise when we finally get Adam home, he will be on Jess's channel. I'm going to say, please take him for a little bit, interview him, and tell you so much more about the corruption that he's experienced during his trial, which he can't really talk about right now because we're still trying to fight a lot of that legally and come back on appeals. And he'll just sound like a victim, somebody who got screwed by the system. But there was a lot of corruption there that stay tuned for, and then also the things that he's experienced on the inside that he won't share with me, and a lot of people on the inside won't share with their family members because they know that we won't sleep at night worrying about them. Thank you guys. I'll see you soon.